Welcome back. You're watching the program into the first segment of the discussion, and we'll be talking about matters that pertain to peer pressure, immorality with regards to a specific focus on early pregnancies, defilement, academics, talent, and how all this intertwine. For the next 1 hour though, I'll be joined by Eugene Amuhaya on my far right, who is a youth and a young man, equally a representative of the people who make up a bulk of the population. Good morning. Good morning. I do appreciate your time. Karibu nyumbani.
Thanks.
And happy festive period. And next to him is Christabel Lipuku. She's parent and with vast experience on, of course, tutoring kids to be better members of the society. We'll know how this is done, perhaps the process and the sacrifices that are often involved. And on my immediate right is Justin Omoyo, educationist and mentor, who talks to young people in the country regarding the happenstances that do transpire. A gentleman and a lady, I do thank you for coming on board.
Thank you for having
Let me
us.
just start with you, Justin Omoyo, because you seem pretty much sitting at the center. You are the pivotal point, the balancing point here of what happens at home, because you're educationist, and what happens at school. You are more or less the second parent after they leave home. Therefore, in making up the minds of these young school-going children, and generally those who still are within the education quarters, how do we mold them to be better members of the society amid the pressure that comes with the contemporary society?
Oh, thank you for that question, and thank you for having me. To me, in my opinion, children are supposed to go through a learning process and not an education system as it is currently. To me, a learning process is a continuous experience for a child, which comes from home, goes through to school, and every aspect of their lives. So I would have desired a situation where you have teens and youth and children who are at school actually learning through experiences at home, teach them how to make their bed and all those kind of small things that they can learn by themselves. Allow them to be creative, let them do maybe some shamba work if there is shamba to be done, or clean the house, so that they're able to learn the basic skills of life for them to be able to fit in society and to fit in the marketplace. But the situation we have is where you find, fortunately, most students are able to only learn through an education system, which is a school. And when they come home, they basically have nothing to do, and some of the parents maybe send them home, or some hang around in the villages, exploiting other things through the energy they have, which are not good for them. Yes.
Okay, well noted point. We'll come and expound more on that. And if I may come to Christabel Lipuku, because being a woman gives you the opportunity, the guarantee to be an embodiment of reason, because you talk to them, you're more or less emotionally connected to the kids as mothers, rather than the dad, who often at times isn't as at the same level as you. How do you sieve out the problems that come with peer pressure, talk to them, and equally ensure that they don't get affected or drowned by the outside pressure from their peer influences?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on the show. Okay, as a mother, I want to say that when you're bringing up a child, what should matter to you most is the value system that you do inculcate in that child. And then it is also about the self-worth of the child. So when a child has a proper value system, and then they are able to have a high self-worth, then it is easy for them even to make decisions that are good for them. And as a mother, when you are reflecting on how you have brought up a child, because as they grow up, right from the time when they are babies, when they are toddlers, and you interact with these kids, you are able to read them. You are able to read their language, verbal, non-verbal. They communicate in the way they talk to you. They communicate in the way they behave. And so even as they grow into their teenage years, you are able to tell if something is wrong with a child. You are able to determine their value system by how they make decisions. And so the more we encourage them to make good decisions, having laid a very strong foundation for a very good value system, the better they are when it comes to dealing with peer pressure, because then they're looking at their inside and not the outside when they're looking for affirmation.
Okay, Eugene Amuhaya, when we talk about young people, you are of course representatives, and they form a lion's share of the population. There are issues that regard unemployment and appreciation. from the quarters of the policy-making process in the country. But then again, there are accusations that young people in the country are not as productive as they ought to be with regards to vis-a-vis their energy levels. Therefore, how do you take off that blame and make yourself, package yourself to be better members of the society and offer your policymakers, or rather the parents, the stakeholders, the teachers in school, as perhaps you want to take over, that you are willing to be guided to be better persons in the society?
Oh, thank you very much for hosting me. As I said earlier, my name is Amwayuji, a resident of Kibra and a representative of the youth. Going on the same, the youths, I think they are not given that platform, because when you look like the issue of unemployment, like in Kibra, maybe to take a picture on Kibra, we have many banks, we have many NGOs, but these NGOs and this other organization are not giving our youth these jobs, or maybe are not given any other opportunity in the community so as to leverage their minds, because the youth have their ideas, but they lack the platform, or maybe the youth have the ideas, but they lack the platform, and sometimes we have the platform, but we lack the ideas. So on the issue of unemployment, I think the system has failed us, and we have to look at it at large. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, Omoyo,
Yes,
when we take a look at the process to sculpture, I mean, young guys to be better members of the society, pretty much, and the parent here, that is Christabel, did mention about the issue of value system in the country, and value system within the context of Kenya being, of course, a secular state, but still we have our own system of course, African value systems. When you mentor young people vis-a-vis that is the cultural beliefs and the traditions that are often at home, being a secular state, how do you balance here with regards to now ensuring that all doesn't get eroded, as is the case at the moment?
As she mentioned, Christabel, as she mentioned, it's very clear that for you to be able to achieve this, you need to really create time. Create time, be present, so that you're able to then not only do this through hearsay, but you're able to see practically what kind of a person you're bringing up. You're able to see what kind of capabilities they have, what kind of skills lie within them. Then you're able to help them to unlock those potentials. Then they're able to use them in society for their betterment. But the challenge we have, it's a very busy society. Mom and dad are always out very early, coming home very late, and they're left probably with the ladies we keep in our homes and the men who take care of our homes, who hardly have a job to do, and they're not very focused on how they bring up these young ones, most of them. So then we have children who grow up not having been grounded in terms of their identity and the values they need to grow into, so that then they're able to know who they are, even align their skills and potentials to what they ought to be in society. But again, as he said, there is a slight failure in the system where we find an education system that we have especially, which alludes to unemployment. Students are being taught to reproduce knowledge and not implement it or be creative around it to create stuff. You can realize you're importing as basic things as eggs, while we can have farmers who are being bred through school to be able to be producers in terms of food security and all that. But then all is not lost. I plead to the youths out there that it's high time they come out, regroup themselves, come together, and take responsibility and take charge of their life, and maybe be innovative and creative around what they want to do. Take, for example, a place like Kibra. We have so many non-governmental organizations, but what if the youth there come up and have, say, a central resource center for all these non-governmental organizations that come there to access information from? Because I've worked there and I realized they're very scattered. So the youths need to come together with their energies and take charge and create those opportunities for themselves, so that we move away from the situation that used to be like you need to be employed and all that.
And that speaks generally to the essence of the economic situation in the country, as Kenyans feel the pinch now, and it seems to be, and that seems to be taking the energy of the festive season. Christabel, if I may come to you, Omoyo did mention a critical factor here that pertains the role of the parenting and the teachers here. But then again, when we talk about this peer influence on the outside environment, out of the confines of the sitting room that where the parenting institution does often undertake its mandate, is it perhaps that the contemporary society where the man and woman all work, giving way, or perhaps the vacuum that is leading to young people being engaged in immoral activities?
Yeah, it is true that parents are very busy trying to look for resources to take a good care of their children. But again, I think that a parent's greatest resource is the child. And so whatever they do, they must find time to spend with that child. Even in their busy schedule, they should create a situation where, like on a weekend, on a Sunday, they can be home with a child. And if it is such that they are so busy, they can always have some time off, because I want to believe that all employers give room for leave. And when you have that time, it is good to spend a lot of time with the child. So while it is true that parents are busy, again, if you're going to be busy out there and then you're losing your greatest resource, then you're not helping society. Because again, when you're looking at these young people, they are the future that we are looking at. And so when you're looking at peer pressure, I think as a parent, you have a responsibility to know who is with your child at any particular time. And that is why you need to talk to your children and find out about their friends. When your children go out there to interact with others and they come back home, open a conversation and talk about their day. Because I think that is very important. And this should not come up in a adolescence, because it is important for a parent to build trust when the kid is still very young. For instance, a child at 8 years, for instance, 7 years, 9 years, it is possible to sustain a discourse with such a child. Just let them come to the house, talk to them about their day, whom they have interacted with. Because when you do that, you are able to capture the value system of the other person who is interacting with your child. It is also good to make an effort to know the parent to the child whom your child interacts with. Because I think, again, for most parents, if you ask them who is the father to your closest friend, what they call the BFF, they don't even know. So I think as parents, we fail when we don't try to make an effort to find out the backgrounds from which our children come from. If we did that, I think it would be easy for us even to interact as parents, so that through the kids, we are able to create friendships as parents. So that if I'm saying that, okay, today my son is going to Omoyo's home, I will not be worried. But again, if I hear today my son is going to maybe Jack's home and I have issues with the value system of those kids, then I'm able to sit down with my child, having given him a very strong basis for a value system, and tell them these people are not bad, yes, but these are things they do which are not good. And it is easier for somebody who is down to bring up somebody who is up than for somebody who is up to take up somebody who is down. And imagine when you talk to this youth, from my experience, they listen. When you take them, when you walk with them, just talking to them, reasoning with them, they are able to identify that I can interact with this person and I cannot interact with this person, and for these reasons. And you give them the confidence to be able to say no when such pressure comes their way.
Eugene Mhaya, being one of the members that we are talking about, or Christabel does point out, do you feel that there has been effective approach, effective method, channel, an avenue that has reached out to you in terms of talking to you and possibly laying out plans to solve your problems?
Thank you. There are some organizations that have come on the ground in Kibra that are talking to the youth, like on the issues of the SGBVs and this substance use. They are educating the youths on more of to be open. Maybe, you know, the youth needs someone to lean on them so that they can share their inner experiences and what's eating them inside. So these platforms created to the youth, they give the youth that mind to be free and maybe to air out what the issues that are eating them inside, so that they can have a better lives. Yes. And maybe those platforms are few, because on the substance use, the youth are not that open, because they feel like when I tell you that maybe I've been smoking bang, I've been doing this, you'll start maybe limiting yourself to them. You'll say, hey, don't work with this boy. He has been doing this and this and this and this. So they limit themselves a lot to the other people, and they start ruining each other, like on the peer pressure. On the peer pressure, I can say that the parents have failed to raise their children morally upright. Because in Kibra, maybe having the poor housing, you'll find that maybe a child is sleeping with another, maybe they are accommodated with another boys in the room. Maybe the house is not sustainable for all the family. So the boy will have to shift to be living with his friends. So you'll find that maybe these friends were smoking bang, they were using that substances. So the boy will have no choice than to join the group, and that affecting his life.
Okay, Omoy, if I may come to you, and Christabel did mention the critical element here before we go to and get a music here, which is a gengetone music, and seek to unpack it, because it normally that does, of course, have some effect on it. But I'd like you to respond to this, because she did mention the impact of communication and how that likely might have a positive impact on the child's future here. Then therefore, how do parents, with regards to the absence, the busy sense of scenario in the contemporary society, how do they establish a communication channel, not to, but with their children, so that it can be a two-way, not to they only speak to, but the kids can also speak to the parents? And does that perhaps give them the manual guide for their lives in future about becoming upright members of the society?
Yes, it does. And communication is key, something you can't run away from. As she said, both verbal and not verbal. But mostly as children grow up, they learn from what you do, not what you say. So most of us parents, we tend to want the children to do what we say and not what we do. So we tend to do opposite. For example, you're trying to get your children off the screen, and here you are all the time on your phone, on your laptop. They want to go out with you and play some football, run around with you, but you're not available. It's through such kind of activities where you are available as a parent, practically available, so that you're able to then learn who your child is and let your child learn you. You know, it's sad, you hear some youth say, my mom and dad don't know me. It's my friends who know me. Reason being, because the friends who are peers now usually avail themselves fully to teach each other the things they want to learn from each other. And this child is having an identity crisis, because the parent is not there to shape the child by communicating and showing them, this is what you're supposed to do, this is how you go about this is what you're not supposed to do, then inculcating those values into the child, so that when they grow, they're able to know where to draw the lines, how far to go, what to do and what not to do, how to engage with other people, how to even communicate with others.
Okay, and as we wrap things up on that, let's now turn our attention to Christabel. I'm coming to you because you seem pretty much at the central point, the conundrum here of perhaps the point with which someone can either be a good or bad person, because parenting is generally an institution with its own framework and challenges. But there's, I don't know whether you know this, gengetone music. So let's discuss, let's say this and come back and talk about the content itself and how it's having an impact on young people's lives in the country. Well, it's one of the many, perhaps sort of composed or constituted songs which is very much active in the eastern part of Nairobi, East Lando, that's what they call it. And when you look at that and the sort of subscription it's gaining in terms of young people who are, in terms of their mindset and psychologically subscribing to this, is at an exponential rate. What do you think causes this?
Okay, as a parent and at my age, I may not be so conversant with the various genres of music, but I do know that such music will really appeal to the young people. And music is a very powerful tool of expression, and it also impacts very strongly on the thought pattern, the worldview of the young people. It does impact. Now, in my view, it is not really the genre, it is the message. That is, that would be my take on that. Because you can also have one that is so lulling, but again, the message may be very wrong. So for me, I don't think I have a problem with the genre. I think what should really matter is what is the message contained therein. Because kids have a way, and young people have a way of taking up the lyrics very fast. And it becomes part of them very quickly. And unfortunately, the more they play it out in their minds, it forms their character. And that again takes us back to the value system. And as parents also, maybe one of the mistakes we make is maybe you see a presentation like that, and maybe you don't agree with it. And so all you are saying is switch off the TV. Or you're telling them, don't watch this on social media. I hold the view that it is better, you equip your child better when you bring yourself to that level. Like for me, I would wish to listen to those lyrics and hear what the music is saying, and then hold a discussion with my child about what the music is saying, the way it is presented, what is their view about it. And again, it goes back to the value system. From what we believe in, what do you think about this music? So again, it is not just about the genre, it's about the message, and it's about parents trying to understand those things that are being said, the way it is being done, and again, holding a discussion with the kids. So again, at the end of the day, it is you and the child interacting.
Okay, I'll go to Emohaya, but first I need to also cue this so that we can take a look at, we can listen for a minute as to the content, and later also afterwards, Eugene, then Omoyo can come in and perhaps express his sentiments on, of course, this, what's coming your way. Eugene, if I may come to you, when you look at the pictures, they are generally 99% young people, and we talked about the content. Aside from that, what do you think is the other factor that perhaps is leading to the entourage of young people in embracing such music?
I think, you know, this music, this gengeton, I know to the parents, it's difficult to understand the terms that are used in there. But for the youth, it's entertainment, and they know the language that is being used there. And music, this gengeton, generally music, it has the, it arouses motion, and it makes a person to take decisions. Like when you hear the song and to get the lyrics. Just to echo on what she said, it's not bad to listen to such music, but what's the message inside the music? And I know the youths are swayed with maybe the lyrics and the video that's being displayed, like how girls dance. And in the community now, even small children have started embracing the things that they see in the videos. And more youths now are not branding their songs maybe to educate or rather to inspire someone. They're just singing to, I think it's for fame, like that song, yeah, I've heard it, and the video, it's lit. So I think the music, I contradict with it a lot. Okay. For the youths, I think it's not safe for them. And to the parents, I don't know how parents can help in this. Maybe parents you will help on that, because I don't know how I think parents need to, it's played even on these channels everywhere. So I think parents should sit with their parents. They should sit with their children, and maybe advise them. These not right things to watch for the tender age. Maybe a child is watching such and is of teen age, and she or he is going to embrace such things in the community. So it will be moral decadency. Yes.
Yes, Omoyo, what do you think as a teacher? Because you equally have a very significant role, because you look at the content. At times the content is an issue, and there are times then intervenes the moral policeman, as we call him, that is Ezekiel Mutua, the CEO of the Kenya Film Classification Board. To what extent do we need now to see the best element of this in terms of wanting to get the best content to get to our kids or young children?
Wow. Was the first song gospel, by the way? Was it?
I think so, I presume.
I'm not sure you can approach with a holy place like a mosque, a church, or a temple with that kind of music as it is. I don't have an issue with the genre as well, but again, music has been evolving over time to subcultures, and subcultures are come out of rebellion. So we had the classicals, and now we have a 20th century kind of music evolution that we don't even know where to classify. That's why it's coming up with subcultures like the genge and, is it genge? And other things, which have their own language really. And the main aim, it's because they've rebelled in a way, so they want to communicate in a certain way that a certain group of people, in this case the parents and the elders, might not be able to understand. So to be honest with you, if you look at the standard music that everybody is appealed to, even the mentors that the teens and the young people look up to, the kind of music they listen to is not that kind of music as the one we are watching now. Of course, we can say it's an art of creativity. It's a genre of music. It communicates, entertains, appeals, and educates them. But I don't know what we could learn from that, for me. So I hold of the opinion that if we can go back to the kind of music that is educative, informative, appealing, and you'll be ready to listen to even as an entire family, not the one that alienates a certain group and another group is not on board. Yeah, that's my view.
Okay, Christabel, away from the music aspect here, let's equally turn our attention to another aspect that is paramount, and it's within our kids and it's within anyone. More or less, let me call it the software that is godly, because everyone has a talent, and we're talking about talent. And as a parent, I'm sure you have been up with the discussion which pertains the competence-based curriculum in the country, which according to the policymakers and the framers is ought to bring some form of level playing field in terms of the societies that we groom in the country. Do you believe then talent plays a key role here in terms of the exposure and help those who are talented and poor on the academic end to have a better life in future?
Yeah, I strongly believe in that. And I think the competence-based curriculum is a good idea. But even as we look at the competency-based curriculum, I just wish that the ministry would find a way of making it value-laden as well, so that when the kids are looking at growing their talent, it is not just about money. Because I think one of the areas we've gone wrong in society is that we've romanticized cash so much that anybody doing anything, it is about money. It is not about how else this is going to impact the people around me. So I would wish that even as we look at the competency-based curriculum, which is about a growing talent, we de-emphasize the value for money. So that when these kids are growing up to grow their talent, they're not just thinking about how much money will I make out of this. They're also looking at how is my talent going to shape society into a better place than what I have found it. So I fully support the competency-based curriculum. It is good to de-emphasize just academic excellence in terms of A's and B's. And as the children go into talent development again, I think they need a lot of guidance from mentors, from teachers, like Omoyo here. They need a lot of guidance, so that even as they grow that talent, even if it is art, what kind of art are you creating? For instance, is it the kind of art that promotes the human value, or is it the kind of art that demotes it? So at the end of the day, again, they'll need a lot of guidance on that.
Okay, Eugene Mohaya, being the young person here on set, a representative of the young people, do you feel that talent will have a place in the new system of education in the country, and perhaps offer a different picture of what previously was under the 844 system of education?
I think it will be there, because when we look in the old curriculum, it was mainly based on the education. They were looking in terms of maybe your performance, how you got the A's and B's. But in the new curriculum, I think the talented people, because talent, you are born with it, and we are not all good in books. Maybe I might know how to draw, to do the art on the canvases, and with this, I'll help more youth. I'll create more chances for youth. Maybe I'll be training with the training that I'll get in school. I'll be training the less fortunate to get that skill that I have acquired, so that we better the community altogether.
Okay, and if I may come to you then, because you pretty much have a very critical role, or play that particular role, Omoyo, and it all pertains what you channel into the minds of these young people, and this includes, of course, the installation of education, and what's of paramount or significance to them in terms of being the good guys in the society. Now we have a new based of education system in the country, and equally this speaks to the essence of, despite the standoff, one that might open up the new frontiers for those who have felt that their talents are suppressed by the upper end here that emphasized or prioritized what appears on that report card at the end of the day? Will it perhaps uplift and bring the same level playing field as the springboard, perhaps, and the launching board now for the two now to be one that will open up equal societies, as I earlier posed to Christabel Lipuku?
Wow. Now, I agree with her and him as well. The competence-based system is well thought out. It's extremely good. The challenge I have with it is the implementation part of it, because I think it's been rolled out up to class 3, if I'm not wrong. And we have teachers who are going to graduate, and some are graduating this year from colleges, who are going to teach those students who are in class 3, who are going through the CBC now, and the teachers in college have not been taught as per this particular system. We have teachers who are practicing, who are actually meant to attend a seminar of, I think, a couple of days or hours to be able to implement and roll out a system that is going to impact the lives of young ones. For the system, I have no issue with it. I'm just hoping that the government will have a proper way to bring every stakeholder on board, especially the trainers, so that we do not have trainers who have challenges of themselves first identifying the competencies of a child and then being able to bring them out so that the child is able to take advantage of them to be able to maybe find a bearing in their lives. Because the challenge we've had initially is the other system emphasized so much on grades. But I'm a strong believer of greater is that which is ascribed in you, that which you are born with, other than what you acquire, because you might easily lose it. And that's why you'd find, maybe you find someone who's supposed to be a very good artist ends up in medical school, someone who's supposed to be a journalist like you, because they got an A, they go to engineering school. And they are very frustrated people to serve in that particular industry, where last they've been very happy in being a journalist and maybe being creative. Because then when you use someone's talent, what you do to this person, you enable them to be creative in their industry, to contribute to that industry, to add knowledge to that industry, and let the industry grow. And that way we're able to create more jobs. So the CBC, if it was properly implemented and rolled out through all the stakeholders, teachers, parents, and everybody, it's a good one. I have a 5-year-old, actually 6. The other day he came home with a project to make an overall. He turned my old jeans into an overall, which is something very good, because I thought this is quite creative for a young person. We're able to sew that and make an overall for him. So it's a very good system, only that the government needs to implement it well. Okay,
hopefully then they iron out the differences. If I may come to Christabel, because you banked your hopes on the CBC. You, of course, echoed support for the new system of education in the country that is more of a competence-based curriculum. Now, looking at that vis-a-vis the 844 system that was in effect until now, this will be fully implemented, do you think that we have relatively done little in terms of the exposure of the talents, and perhaps one that has suppressed what is in these kids, not what we want them to be, or the society?
Yeah, actually, I've gone through the 844 system myself, and the very initial years of the 844 system. And when I look at what is happening with the CBC today, it's very much like what we went through at that time. Today, I can do a koroboi, I can bake, I can sew, all those things. We used to do them. And I want to imagine that is where CBC is taking us back to. And so I want to say that at that point, before most of those areas of education were taken out of the syllabus, the people who came out of school, even at class 8, someone could actually open a kiosk without training even in a tertiary college. And they could make food, they could do welding and those things. And they did make a living out of those things. So I want to say that in a way, the 844 system over time actually did stifle so many talents within our young people, which could be used to better their lives. And for some reason, we all looked to white-collar jobs, and everyone wanted to be a manager, a secretary, somewhere in an office, putting on a suit and something like that. But then we forget that majority of the Kenyans actually thrive on the the Juakali sector. And people are not paying attention to it, even the training in colleges. When you find students coming out of school and you're telling them to go and train to become artisans and things like that, they're not paying attention to that. So I think with the competency-based curriculum,
Yes.
as we go back to that, and these kids are able to realize what they can do, and they can do it well, and especially for those who are in the arts, like music, like art, just drawing, etc. Even they can help us to bring out issues that are actually gnawing at the conscience of our society.
All right, on that note then, Christabel Lipuku, Omoyo, and Eugene Amuhaya, we hit the break. When we come back, we'll have a special feature done by our reporter Abdiaziz Hashim regarding a 14-year-old girl in Kibra constituency regarding abuse and how that is present in the contemporary society equally and need to be highlighted, even as we'll also be talking about the academics aspect that we should be enmeshing in talent in the new competence-based curriculum in the country. The number is 07914789990. The hashtag on Twitter is NewDayKE. The short SMS code is 40920. We are coming back for that. Stay tuned. Well, Christabel, if I may come to you first on this, because it's very damning and equally is very much emotional, so to be honest in this particular case. But what do you think is the impact of the psychological warfare that this girl, who I presumably might be between 13 and 14, since she sat for her KCPE, is going to be having? I mean, it's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, that was a very unfortunate incident. And a girl at 13 or 14 in this generation may have some information about sex. They may hear about rape cases, sexual defilement, but many times they never imagine it can come to them. And so when it comes to them, it takes them totally by surprise. And especially when a girl comes out to talk about it the way she has done, generally society is not yet so empowered to be empathetic. They're likely to judge, they're likely to stigmatize this girl, and she has to be a very strong girl to take that in her stride and walk with the story and be able to say, it wasn't my mistake, I was a victim and I'm still soldiering on. So I want to say it will not be an easy walk for this child, and I just wish there could be somebody within where she lives who can actually work with her and empower her, and above all, rebuild her self-esteem. Because as time goes by and as it sinks in her that she was actually abused, it is going to weigh down on her esteem. And so she needs somebody who can help her to do that. And maybe just looking at what has happened to her and looking at the informal settlement, perhaps even in the school system, the Kenyan school system, there's a time when the ministry talked about guidance and counseling departments that are supposed to be strengthened. And perhaps when you're looking at the GNC, they should actually consider empowering the teenagers and the young children on how to defend themselves. Because the issue of sexual assault is not just about the girl child. Unfortunately, even boys have interacted with boys who've been abused, and many times by people who are very close to them. So maybe I think it is time to empower these girls and boys on how they can defend themselves against somebody who wants to assault them. It could be physically, they could even be taken to taekwondo classes, judo, and they can also be equipped with the negotiation skills. Because some of these people who perpetrate these types of violence, if a child is well empowered to negotiate, they can get themselves out of that fix. I think that's important.
Well elaborated. Eugene, if I may come to you, this happened in Kibra. You, of course, are from Kibra. Do you come along such cases, and what is the prevalence here in terms of what you have managed to observe in the constituency?
Okay, thank you. First and foremost, it's very saddening to hear such stories, and it's embarrassing that close people or people related to these people are the one doing these things. Rape and defilement has been rampant in the community, and I think we have feminists who are championing for these issues, and they have failed. Because we hear such cases every now and then, but we have not found any solution as per what we can do. These people are taken to the jail or they are taken to the cell, but there is nothing that they are done on them. Like this person was taken to Kilimani, but he was left scot-free. So how is this girl going to be helped?
Okay.
So I think the feminists have failed, and all the people have failed. Because if we can push these cases, and we know this person has wronged, and this the sentence for these issues, I think from there we'll be helping these kids or these girls, our girls, and save them from these SGBVs.
Okay. And perhaps it's not to just rule it out. It's not an entirely feminism affair here, because it's the right of a young girl here who equally is a representative of other young girls in the country who might have gone through this, and she was brave enough to speak out. But Omoy, if I may come to you, when you critically follow the chronology of how this incident happened until we managed to catch up with the lady here in Kibra constituency, there's the aspect here, of course we'll respond to the aspect of violence. There's also the other element here, or the aspect of the police impunity in not wanting to follow up with such a case and hand it over to the DCI to investigate for the possible arrest of that person and the prosecution before a full trial begins in a court of law. Therefore, is it an entity that is letting down, possibly watching in bated breath the violation of a minor's rights in the Constitution? And how well do we address that in terms of the police themselves having the sort of humanness in them, in terms of harboring that sense of belief that this might happen to my daughter, my sister, and equally to the other members of the society? Therefore, how do we manage to reconcile all these activities and end up in one basket?
First of all, let me say sorry to the family of the young girl and to the young girl. And I pray that she gets the help she needs, psychological help, and also someone to walk with her so that she's able to pull through this. It's a tough time for her. That's a lifetime scar. And I could say this will go, of course, to court, and courts drag with such matter. So, which is actually a gap in our society where you find the way of collection of evidence, the process of court, the officers who have the mandate of being the investigating officers. And then this is a bad case where we even have a leader that's a PA to the MC, I guess.
Yes.
This is a person in authority. I'm even fearing for this girl's security or the family's security. Maybe they need protection as it is. But then unfortunately, the same police that is supposed to offer protection is the one that is releasing the person they're supposed to have in custody until this case is fulfilled fully or concluded. And then you might have a case where they're trying to interfere with the witnesses and even influencing those affected. As you saw, they already made a call to the mom, I guess, and trying to negotiate if they can have it out of court. So I guess it's just a rotten society for some few who are very rotten in the basket, and unfortunately leaders who are even trying to cover up a culprit who even does not even supposed to have a room to associate with a leader of a community, who is supposed to actually be the one to apprehend this very person as the assistant and hand him over to the police so that he's able to be arrested and maybe put behind bars for the time being as the investigation goes on. So I believe if the police and the investigating authorities and the local leaders come together, we will have speedy justice for such cases. And essentially getting them the most important help, psychological help, and maybe someone to counsel them and walk with them as they go through this tough time.
Okay, hopefully they make up a good follow-up regarding the investigation process, since it's highlighted by the media. Christabel, if I may come to you then as we finish up on this and go to the other aspect of the morality, the pregnancy stuff, the minors that continues to rise up in the country. When you hear that phone call conversation, I mean, on one end, it's more or less a subjective one. And of course, definitely what we'll fear is the instilling of fear in the mother. And then finally, what might end up is it might end up rather in an out-of-court settlement where some money will be dished out. Is this a problem that is leading to the perpetual continuity of violence against young girls and boys in the country, the parents now accepting money for the violation of the right of the minor?
Okay, I want to say that on one hand is the issue of apathy. And I want to believe even amongst the security details that we have, it is an issue whereby when these issues are reported, the court cases are so protracted, and sometimes at the end of the day, nothing happens. The number two, we are looking at an informal settlement. And these are people who are poor. And so for these people, the need for basic things may actually override the need for justice. And so I think even the person who is calling the mother is very much aware that this is something that we can easily settle with money, and that is why they are doing that. So I want to say that poverty plays a very significant role in perpetuating sexual violence against women and girls and even boys. Oh, yeah. Because once a parent realizes that if I'm going to settle this issue out of court, because I want to put myself in the shoe of that mama. Okay. I'm looking at a child who is sexually defiled, and chances are maybe this is also a parent who has gone through some very nasty sexual experiences. And so for them, it is not something that may really hurt them so much. And then I'm looking at a situation where I'm so stuck. Maybe I'm just looking for about 7,000 shillings to help me sort out a very pertinent issue that is maybe bothering me at a time.
Therefore, it's economical for them.
Yeah, and so somebody comes and tells you, let me give you 30,000. Really, even as I negotiate with myself, at the end of the day, I'm likely to go to my daughter and tell her it has happened, it is bad, but it's okay. I'm even likely to quote scripture and say, forgive, you know, because at the end of the day, my need is being met. I may not tell that child that my need is being met, but that is what I may likely do. So I think poverty, and unfortunately, poverty is a significant player in how these cases are handled, especially in informal settlements and in backgrounds where even meeting the basic needs is a problem.
In addition, I would say if you had a situation where you have instant justice, maybe within the OCSs or the officer commanding stations are mandated to offer instant justice, then I think they won't have had to pursue such a channel. They could also be willing to do such for reasons of how long the cases take. I know of a case that has been running for 4 years now of a rape, and the victim is even wanting to withdraw because of how it's dragging, wasting her time to court, having to see the perpetrator all the time, and justice hasn't come along that so far.
Yes, Eugene, you had a thought?
For me, bearing in mind, this is not the first case of defilement and rape. Like, it was in which month? There was this instance where a religious person was involved in such an act. But this person, there was no measures that were taken on him because he holds a place in the community. So I think we are corrupt, our mind is corrupt, our behavior are corrupt. So at the end of the day, we want money. We want money to satisfy our need more than what we want to get, the rights that we want to get. So I think we should check on behavioral and the moral decadency in the community, so as in to help these people, to help these young people in the community, like this perverted family. It has no say in the community, and there's no person who is going to help them. So it's for us and it's for the parents to rise and say, no, enough, it's enough. And we want justice be done on these issues that are happening in our community. Yes.
And I must say thanks to the media for highlighting such, because now at least it caught the attention of the public, and I hope the police will fast track such and many more so that people get justice.
Okay. Yeah. Now, Christabel, if I may come to you then on the final element here, because it's equally an important point which needs an address and an immediate arrest for the restoration of norm in the society. I'm talking about early pregnancies among the minors in the country. in your view, from the perspective of the parenting, the institution that you are a key stakeholder of, what do you think are the factors that are precipitating the exponential growth in the number of pregnancies among young minors or young girls in the country?
Okay, one, I want to say that as parents, we are not addressing the issue of sex and sexuality with our kids at the right time. And so our children are growing up. Incidentally, it is still a taboo subject. I don't understand why. When you're looking at how much technology has come into our midst, I don't understand why parents still want to treat the issues of sex and sexuality as taboo. And I think for me that is one of the reasons why many girls, as they're growing up, and boys, and as they watch movies, they are on the social media, and they're picking a lot of sexual content.
Yes.
And parents are not addressing that sexual content. Because I think what happens is that from my interaction with teens, what happens is that when a parent finds that a child has exposure to any manner of sexual content, they become very aggressive and antagonistic. And I think for me that is a failure, because it would be better to discuss these issues with the child and make them see the repercussions of engaging in sexual activities, whether boy or girl. Because we see, again, those girls who are getting pregnant nowadays, many of them are not being impregnated by 30-year-olds.
Yes.
It is 14-year-old boys. And it is good to let this child know what happens when a girl sleeps with a boy, what happens when a boy sleeps with a girl. I think that is very significant. It is important to make them know that even at 14, you can be a father. And let this child know, if you are a father, what are you supposed to do? So I think we have failed to discuss sexuality with the kids as it should. Most of them depend on what they see on social media, and the few who are able to get this information maybe in school settings. But at home, I think parents are not doing that.
Okay.
And again, I don't know how much the church is doing in equipping these young people, again, with knowledge on how to manage their sexuality. Because again, when you come back to the issue of self-value, then a child who really values himself or herself is likely to guard their body against sexual abuse. And this time, I'm not talking about the kind of violence we are looking at, just sexual abuse, where you give yourself freely to sexual activity. If a child values themselves enough, then they'd not be able to not give themselves into that kind of abuse. Of course, we've talked about children using protection so that they can... there was a very interesting debate in Parliament about lowering the
consent age.
The consent age. And I think that is wrong, because we are trying so much maybe to copy from the Western cultures. But we need to understand that maybe the way our children's minds are cultured is not the way they are cultured. In Western cultures, people are getting married even as long as they're 18, they're getting married.
Yes,
but
there are states in the US even where you can marry at 12.
Yeah, but in this, in Kenya, unfortunately, we are still focusing so much on education. And so it is delaying parenthood. And so we need to make our children understand that at 18, you cannot be a father, because you cannot be a mother, because you need to provide. There are other psychological, social, emotional demands that come with parenting. So I think the issue of early pregnancies are actually accentuated by the fact that we are not addressing sexuality as we should, as parents and as the larger society.
Okay.
And just to chip in the community, for example, where I come from, girls have been empowered a lot.
Okay.
And the boy child is not more of that empowered as girl child. So I think they should be given equal chance to be empowered, so that they separate the wrong from the right. And again, I think poverty has also led to this early teen pregnancy, because in the community, the family is living under even $1 per day.
Okay.
So you'll find that it's difficult for the girls maybe to get the sanitary towels, the essential, the vital needs that she would want to get. So she will engage herself in maybe hazardous activities in order to get that money. And in that sense, to getting that money, maybe he will be lied to, and he'll be pregnant.
Okay. Let me give the final words to Omoyo. And as we wrap things up here, I mean, all this that we are seeing, poverty, which is a precipitating factor, and then we have this perhaps an issue that continues to cause a lot of worry and uncertainty among members of the society. How do we curb this?
I guess you're talking about the teens' pregnancies,
yes,
yeah?
yes.
So, as we've been speaking before, it all goes down to what values you inculcate in your child, what identity you give your child, so that if they know who they are and what they stand for, then they should be able to protect themselves and maybe have some information and skills of keeping themselves away from such kind of influences, which come from, of course, the peer. And the other thing is, compared to our days, you know, I remember a friend of mine was saying recently, growing up, we could access maybe even this kind of magazines that are X-rated. You had to go to down in River Road to get them. But nowadays, at a click of a button, they have them because we've given them smartphones. So they have access to information that they don't actually know what to do with. And since the parents, most of them are not available to tell them how to filter this information, what to access, what to do with what they access, then they end up accessing more information than they ought to, and maybe go ahead and to practice some of it. And as she said, sex conversation is something we can't run away from. Let's start from an early age, like 5 years, 6 or 7 or 8. Let's start telling the kids about their private parts. They belong to them, not anybody else. Nobody should touch, and all those kind of conversations. Just an early stage to usher this conversation into sexuality, so that we don't make it a taboo as it is now.
Okay, yeah. It's a discussion that never ends, but gentlemen and a lady, we have to conclude it there. I do thank you for your contributions. Eugene Muhaya is youth representative from Kibra constituency. Christabel Lipuku, parent and mentor. She is a key stakeholder in the institution of parenting. And Justin Omoyo is an educationist and mentor who talks to young boys and girls in the country to be better members of the society. And thank you to you two for watching the program. You can see the upload of this video on our YouTube, that is at Ibro TV Kenya. On Twitter, the hashtag What'sNewDayKE, and we are also on Facebook.com/Ibro TV Kenya. From me, Ayub Abdikadir Abdi and the team here in Lavington. We'll see you on Friday. Linda will be here, and Winnie Lubembe will be up next with my doctor. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Good morning.